Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Testing 1 2. Are they bouncing? Okay, good. All right.
months it was free, and then we paid them.
Trustee Patterson, can you hear us? Is your mic turned on? Can you test your mic real quick for us?
You not hear me?
All right, we can hear you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Huh? Steve Anderson.
I'll have a weekend, so. Yeah.
You know, you'll see the lake. It's beautiful.
Lance?
If you
Sail, I was looking to find a boat or something to do.
I'm sure there's places you can rent.
Brad.
In Geneva, certainly in Lausanne, but like if you're in Geneva and you can just rent a boat. Peaks that are up in the mountains. Because the mountains, it's crazy. Like it's, see the pictures and I think it's amazing.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here today at the New College of Florida Board of Trustees meeting. It's Thursday, June 13th, 2024. It's good to be in this air conditioning because it is just ridiculously hot outside. I'd ask you all, before we call the meeting to order, to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Thank you. Ms. Fitzpatrick, can you please do the roll call and establish a quorum?
Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Bauerlein.
Here.
Trustee Jaco.
Here.
Trustee Karp.
Here.
Trustee Kessler.
Present.
Trustee Mickelson.
Here.
Trustee Patterson.
Present.
Trustee Reed.
Here.
Trustee Rufo.
Here.
Trustee Spalding. May join us. Chair Jinks.
Here.
Quorum is present and the meeting was publicly noticed.
Thank you. At this time, we officially call the meeting to order. I would like to move into the public comment process of our meeting. It's New College's policy that if you wanted to speak at this meeting, you must have registered at least 48 hours in advance of the meeting. We have a list of 19, 18?
17.
17 people who have registered and are here for public comment. Each commenter will have 1 minute to speak. Christy Fitzpatrick, can you please call the first name on the list?
So the first three that are
First
up
three, yeah.
today are Patrick McDonald, Peter Shellhorn, and then Jessica Daigle.
Okay.
I'm Pat McDonald, Professor of Mathematics, Vice Chair of the faculty. Why do serious scholars come to New College, and why do they choose to stay? Before scholars invest in the hard work of building a program, they must believe that their work will be supported and fairly evaluated by individuals who are qualified to do so. For faculty to commit, there's a common necessary prerequisite. There must be a clear understanding of the processes that govern curriculum, hiring, and tenure, and those processes must be respected. At New College, these processes are broken. As an example, today you are asked to vote on tenure for 2 scholars on the recommendation of a committee that was not provided even a CV on which to make a judgment. At issue is not whether the candidates cleared the bar. The more pressing long-term issue is whether or not the processes that ensure our faculty are able to offer high-quality programs still exist. Because the essential processes are broken, we have hemorrhaged faculty. This will continue until deficiencies are addressed. Thank you.
Hello, friends. I want everybody to recognize that we lost something in the last few weeks that we'll never be able to get back, and that is a large part of the Uplands Preserve. We lost the trees, we lost the wildlife, we lost it. And in remembrance of that, I would like to ask for you to join me in a moment of silence in remembrance of that loss. Thank you.
Next up, we have Jessica Daigle, Carol Lerner, and Christopher Kotke.
The banyan tree, or the strangler fig, settles on an already established tree, engulfs, and eventually suffocates it, much like you have done with New College or tried to. But the real New College still breathes as long as myself and the other students who resist you do. David Rancourt told me if I just leave, everything goes away. But while my conduct charges may have been left behind, the passion you have instilled in me will never go away. I live every day in spite of the governor and the members of this board. You have no idea what it meant for me to go to college and no clue what you took from me, but I rose above. I return here to remind you I will never allow your lies to go unquestioned. You tried to take away my voice, but only amplified it. You have not won. In your capture of New College, you have released the incredible minds of real NCF students unto the world. Motivated by our first-hand experience of Florida's turn to fascism, we will be the ones to stamp you out. Take our narrative evaluations, but you will never erase the paragraphs written about me.
Carol Lerner. President Corcoran and his hand-picked trustees are experts at wielding wrecking balls. They not only use their wrecking balls to clear campus trees to build unnecessary athletic fields, but these same people are doing the identical thing to the core curriculum, gutting the very essence of New College, that of teacher-scholar-guided student self-directed learning. In Corcoran's core curriculum proposal, for incoming freshmen, electives are being removed and replaced with a Hillsdale-like Logos curriculum combined with data-driven courses. It is becoming one shoe fits all. Will Professor Guiley be teaching his case for colonialism course? We, the Friends of New College, have a better idea. Deep six the proposal and go back to the original conception of New College, a conception that has made New College a national leader in per capita Fulbright scholars. Thank you.
Next up, we have Professor Kotke, Karen Stack, Zita Connor.
Chris Kotke, Associate Professor of Mathematics. The process by which tenure is awarded is obviously of major concern to faculty. Indeed, the perception that over the last year and a half this process was violated and non-meritorious decisions were made is a huge reason why so many quality scholars have left and are continuing to leave. Recently, when I've gone to conferences with other academic mathematicians, even my conservative colleagues who are sympathetic to this board on issues like DEI cite our well-publicized tenure debacles when they tell me, "Wow, things are pretty bad at your college, huh?" and ask me if I really plan to stay. Our tenure process and timeline are clearly articulated. In the cases before you today, the process was not followed. Faculty were asked to vote with vastly incomplete information, a tight turnaround, and given no rationale for doing so. The negative votes speak for themselves. I implore you to think very carefully before continuing to undermine this critical aspect of our program. It's essential to our ability to recruit and retain quality scholars in the years ahead. Thank you.
When asked when the support documents for this meeting would be posted, the response was, all materials are posted when available. They weren't available until yesterday at 5 p.m., and that was not enough time to read a 159-page document. Absolutely not. Phrases like civil discourse, open discourse, mutual respect are sprinkled throughout your plans. But with all due respect, there's very little about New College version 2 that is transparent, respectful, tolerant, or civil. Is it respectful to ignore the current master plan's mission to maintain the Uplands Preserve as a substantial natural resource? Is it civil to clear-cut 3 acres and disrupt a fragile coastal ecosystem? What message does this send to prospective marine biology students? Is it an expression of tolerance to withhold tenure and diplomas? I can't speak for anyone but myself, but if your goal is to engage the world, start by engaging your neighbors. Thank you.
Next up, we have Zita Connor, Robin Williams, and then Donald Popovich.
I am a resident of the Uplands, commenting on the Education Plant Survey and the proposed New College of Florida Business Strategic Plan. The general public, as well as the Board of Trustees, was given less than 24 hours to review the supporting materials on today's agenda. The Business Strategic Plan was not available 24 hours ahead of this meeting. Board of Governor Regulation 21.202 states all background data shall be available for public inspection while the campus master plan is being considered for adoption. None of this background material was made available to us. It is doubtful that all of you, appointed to the board to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars, have carefully read all the materials and considered the full impact of the issues in front of you. Are you voting with complete understanding of the issues? I ask a member of the board to remove the Education Plant Survey from the consent agenda for discussion. Also, table the action on the New College of Florida Business Strategic Plan until the next Board of Trustees.
Robin Williams. Rather than admit a technical faux pas with the sound system at graduation, the embarrassed NCF leadership resorted to vindictive measures against graduating students, potentially jeopardizing graduate school opportunities. As an American, students have a right to protest. Israelis are protesting Netanyahu too. I am Jewish, and many Jews want a ceasefire and a two-state solution. Jews are worried about what many of us are worried about is the rise of fascism, with people like Viktor Orban in Hungary, unfortunately admired by Mr. Rufo, and now Marine Le Pen in France. Don't punish students, though, for exercising their First Amendment rights. Don't cut down trees to make way for more sports. Perhaps attracting more brains to New College to solve our environmental crisis and less brawn for sports will put the college back on track as an academic leader rather than an academic disaster.
Next up, we have Donald Popovich, Jill Casterol, and Lillian Rod.
I am a resident of Uplands, commenting on the Education Plant Survey and the proposed New College Business Strategic Plan. The general public, as well as the Board of Trustees, were given less than 24 hours to read 150 pages and numerous spreadsheets. The Business Strategic Plan was not available 24 hours ahead of this meeting. Florida Sunshine Law, Statute Section 286.11, outlines open meeting requirements. New College has not provided reasonable notice to the public about the information to be discussed. Sunshine Law was created to allow the public to engage in the process of the government. President Corcoran, you talk nonstop about civil discourse, but it seems you don't have any tolerance for it. I want a member of the board to remove the Education Plant Survey from the consent agenda for discussion and table the action of the New College Florida Business Strategic Plan until the next Board of Trustee meeting.
The Uplands community has been dramatically impacted by President Corcoran's plans. Our lives are directly affected by his decisions. We have not been kept informed of what his plans are. We believe this to be intentional to prevent us from organizing much resistance. How much concern has he shown for the environment and the destruction of old-growth trees and the wildlife habitat? What about the increased traffic in the Uplands with the extension of Uplands Boulevard to connect the north and south campuses? What about the children, the dogs, the bike riders' safety with this significant increase in traffic through our neighborhood? How much of the Florida taxpayers' money is the college administration going to spend for an estimated increase of 410 students, best case, over the next 4 years? I have lived in the Uplands for 44 years and never thought I would see the total destruction of Uplands Preserve. How much does the environment have to pay for the ambitions and egos of two men, the architects of the new NCF?
Next up, we have Lillian Rod, John O'Miller, and Tamara Solem.
I am a resident of Uplands and New College alumni, and I am a very concerned citizen. Since April board meeting, where I urged the college not to plan anything on Uplands Preserve, President Corcoran has clear-cut half of it. This is in violation of the current approved master plan, the development plan with the City of Sarasota, and 2005 agreement between New College and USF. Uplands neighborhood has been largely spared from hurricane damage in the past because the preserve provided a buffer zone. Now that it has been destroyed, I hold President Corcoran personally and NCF generally responsible if I or this neighborhood suffers any loss because of the senseless destruction of this vital natural resource. Please stop all construction and improvement there immediately. First, allow all 30+ organizations that will have master plan input to review and provide that input, and agree in writing with the City of Sarasota about the scope of work before any more harm has been done. Thank you.
I'm John O'Miller, President of NCF Freedom. I previously oversaw the campus master planning process, and I'm here today to comment on the Educational Plant Survey. It's a great idea to have outsiders come and assess our campus, but I'm not sure they understood that we are not following our current trustee-adopted campus master plan and campus landscape master plan, that we're not compliant with BOG Regulation 21.2021, that we are taking actions not consistent with the campus development agreement we have with the city, that we're violating the 2005 memorandum agreement with USF, and that we apparently have unresolved issues with the FAA. Meanwhile, you haven't completed an evaluation and appraisal report since 2013, which was required 4 years ago by BOG Regulation 21.2027, and you're 4 years late on an updated campus master plan, which we haven't seen a draft of yet. You really should table this item until these issues can be resolved. Thank you.
Next up, we have Tamara Solom, Jolie Forrester, and Rodrigo Diaz.
As the parent of a New College graduate, I have found it increasingly difficult to watch the ongoing destruction of our revered Honors College. On June 1st, Governor DeSantis snuck onto campus to bestow praise upon President Corcoran for transforming the college from a woke indoctrination center. He told the crowd, "You're a parent. You work 18 years to be able to instill certain values into your kid. Do you want your kid going somewhere for 4 years and having all that undone? Do Floridians really believe that their students' morals and beliefs are so fragile that they can't withstand exposure to multiple viewpoints? My daughter worked exceptionally hard here on research for her degree. She had to use critical thinking and cite multiple sources to defend her thesis. Not one professor ever told her how to draw conclusions. Between the conduct violation letters to recent graduates, the clear-cutting of the Bayfront, and the new strategic plan to eliminate narrative evaluations, among other things, it is quite obvious that this administration is following the governor's orders to literally bulldoze everything good that New College stood for.
I'm a graduate of Florida's public university system and attended a school that fostered free thinking and enabled me to go on and earn my MPP from the Harvard Kennedy School. That is why I find it so tragic that students at New College are not being afforded the same opportunity. The general ed requirements expose me to many diverse ideas, and the idea that this core curriculum is only focused on Western thought does the students a huge disservice. It's ironic that one of the pillars of your strategic plan is free inquiry and free speech, yet the students at New College aren't being afforded that. Speech is not free if it only applies in certain circumstances in ways which align with one set of values. The way the school is threatening to withhold degrees from students just because they didn't like your graduation speaker is a perfect example of this. The way you're destroying trees from a literal nature preserve parallels the way this board is uprooting academic freedom from New College. Just like nature has an uncanny ability to heal itself when the threat to the ecosystem is removed, so I believe students and this community have the ability to overcome and recreate New College once this fascist board is uprooted.
Next up, we have Rodrigo Diaz, followed by Mike Sanderson.
In Monday's meeting of the Academic and External Affairs Committee, Trustee Amy Reed pointed out that the framework for core curriculum presented to the committee was not the same framework that had been approved by the New College faculty in May. President Corcoran responded. He defended the alteration in the faculty's framework by saying it was part of his effort to create a world-class core curriculum. However, the president's response to Amy Reed was beside the point. The president is entitled to disagree with the faculty, and he is entitled to explain his disagreement to the board. But no one is entitled to alter what the faculty approves in its meetings and then declare that the faculty approved something it didn't approve. To do so violates paragraph 5.5 of the collective bargaining agreement with the faculty. President Corcoran is familiar with this agreement. He cited it several times in Monday's meeting. And by the way, happy Pride Month to all. Queer joy. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, because my comment must speak to the agenda, if I could have just a few moments before to speak to those we've lost, less than half a comment. My name is Mike Sanderson. I entered New College in 1999. I'd like to remember political science professor Eugene Lewis, who's also provost under USF, giant of New College. And I would also like to remember legendary Florida Senator Bob Graham, who was a supporter of New College. Thank you. May I have a minute for my comment?
Yes.
Okay.
So that, they'll have to reset the, there we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I asked today to speak about the internal audit plan. My full comment is available at mikesand.com. A year ago at the Board of Governors, I raised concern about the athletics funding, and in response, I received a letter from Chief Audit Officer Zumas, which was CC'd to the Inspector General's office. Mr. Zumas wrote, quote, "The university is supported by an experienced VP of Finance and Administration, as well as the Office of General Counsel. And, quote, it is my understanding that funding for athletics will come from tickets sold when the events commence, et cetera, and other allowed sources," unquote. That was in July 2023, and if you remember, in November, you had to do an emergency Zoom call to redirect funds away from athletics. And despite that, there's no auxiliary audit plan this year. You can add one. I could say more about Mr. Zumas' direct email to students providing legal advice, or of how he buried last year's Title IX consultants report from April. But to members of this board serving as part of your long-term commitment to Florida governance, if you sign off on any of these audit plans, are you actually protected, reputationally or legally? I'm asking. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment.
Thank you, everybody. Do we have our other members back on? This is now the time where we move into the consent agenda. Before we do that, I would like to remove the item under the informational items from the Audit and Compliance Committee post-tenure review audit report and put that on the regular agenda after we discuss the New College Business Strategic Plan as an action item. So this will now be removed and become item number 7 on the agenda. With that, trustees, you've been supplied the materials, and I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'd like to remove.
Oh, hang on, 2 hands were up.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I'd like to remove from the consent agenda the following items.
Please list them slowly.
Yes, I will. The approval of tenure track candidates, the approval of framework for New College of Florida's core curriculum, approval of the 2023-24 preliminary operating budget, approval of food service
I'm
purchase.
sorry, 20. Sorry.
It says 23-24.
24, 25?
Yeah, preliminary operating.
Sorry, I must have an old copy of it. As well as, I said food service.
The food service purchase order?
Yes, that one. The approval of student temporary housing purchase order, the modular. Approval of education plant survey. The approval of the 25-26 legislative budget request for fixed capital outlay. And the approval post-tenure review audit report.
That's already been removed.
Okay,
So
thank you.
that's been, it'll be action item number 7. It's not on consent. Okay, I see a second hand. Trustee Reed?
I'd like to remove the 25-26 legislative budget request.
Hang on. Okay. That's it.
I'd like to remove the foundation budget and the Development Corporation budget.
Okay, so,
Oh, actually, no, we don't, that last one can stay. So just the foundation budget.
okay, for those items remaining on the consent agenda that have not been requested to be removed, do I have a motion to approve?
Can you please list what the remaining ones are so it's clear for everyone present?
Sure. The approval of the minutes for the April 11th, 2024 BOT meeting, the Audit and Compliance Committee approved compliance, fraud prevention, and ethics program plan update, approved fiscal year 2024-25 internal audit and compliance work plan, and the approval of the
Development
new
Corporation.
the approval of the new College Development Corporation. And, yeah.
Did they mention
No,
the housing
no, that's
purchase
on there.
for
Yeah,
hotels?
yeah. And the approval of, I did that. Yeah, but just to be clear, the approval for.
I didn't call the hotels, just the modular, if that's.
Yeah, okay. And then the approval, student temporary housing purchase orders, hotel purchase agreement.
That's been pulled.
No, it was
Oh,
the modular.
Oh, the modular one, sorry,
Correct.
yes.
Okay, we clear on what we're voting on?
We hope.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, all right, we'll go through these items now in order of, as they appear on the agenda, not by who moved to take them off consent. So, trustee.
Motion in a second.
Yeah, so do we have a motion to approve the tenure track candidates, Dr. Bernard Klingenberg and Dr. David Mickix?
Motion
Thank you.
to approve.
Thank you. Trustee Bauerlein, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Carp. All right, discussion. Ms. Mickelson?
Yes, I move to divide the question into the following separate parts. The first would be tenure for Dr. Klingenberg, and separately would be the tenure for Dr. Mickix.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Opposed.
Nay. So motion doesn't carry.
Can we do a voice vote on that, please?
Sure.
So a roll call then, thank you.
Trustee Anderson?
Nay.
Trustee Bauerlein?
Nay.
Trustee Jaco?
No.
Trustee Carp?
No.
Trustee Kessler?
No.
Trustee Michelson?
Yes.
Trustee Patterson?
No.
Trustee Reed?
No.
Trustee Rufo?
Oh, sorry, yes, sorry, God. I'm jumping ahead.
Nay.
Okay. Trustee Rufo?
Excuse me.
I'm a nay.
Chair Jinks?
Nay.
Motion fails.
Motion fails. Okay, now we're in discussion. Well, she raised it, so why don't you let Trustee Mickelson?
Well, first off, let me just say it's a travesty that we are considering two very different cases as one. That is really a violation of the principles of how tenure is supposed to work, where people are supposed to be assessed on their record, not linked to somebody else that they've presumably never met. When we met on Monday to discuss these cases, we did not have any information about them. We had a 1.5-page summary prepared by someone in the provost's office, and we had the voting information that showed that faculty in the respective natural sciences division for Dr. Klingenberg and humanities division for Dr. Mickix each voted overwhelmingly against tenuring these candidates. why I think it's inappropriate that we be considering them together is that the reasons why they are being receiving negative votes from the faculty are, in fact, quite different. I'll start with Dr. Klingenberg. Dr. Klingenberg has been teaching here at New College since 2018. He has been the director of the data science program since 2023. So there is no justification for tenuring him as if he is a new arrival to New College. The process for consideration of his file should have been able to go normally had the administration simply encouraged him to put together a file last fall when it could have been considered by the faculty, as tenure cases always are, had all the information that faculty expect to receive about tenure been provided, then there would be no discussion about this, I suspect. But as this was done, a much more limited range of information was provided to faculty. A very limited range of information was provided to this Board of Trustees. I'll note that there is not one evaluation of Dr. Klingenberg's work here at New College, and yet according to his CV, which we received on Tuesday, he's been teaching here since 2018. Normally, faculty review is a very robust process at New College. Every year, faculty receive an evaluation, usually 2. None of that information has been made available to people here. On top of it, for tenure, the process is that the chair of the division solicits evaluations, external evaluations from people who do not have close research relationships with the person being evaluated. In both of these cases, certainly in Dr. Klingenberg's, he requested evaluations from 3 people with whom he regularly publishes. One of the letters that you were provided actually says this is just an informal letter because these academic scholars know that this is a violation of the process. So regardless of my respect for Dr. Klingenberg, for the work that he has done here, because of my respect for New College, I have to say no to this tenure because the process was violated, and in fact, the fact that it was moved up to you here is really a slap in the face to faculty. If I can talk, do you want me to talk about Dr. Mickish now, or do you want to continue discussions, as we should, of one candidate and then the next?
Why don't you continue, and then we'll hear from Ms. Mickelson.
So for Dr. Mickish, someone I have not met, this is totally, it's just, again, a really inappropriate use of the system. Faculty in the Humanities Division were, again, given an abbreviated amount of information about him and asked to vote. Colleagues voted strenuously against tenuring this person. Why? Primarily because we have absolutely no indication that he actually is interested in teaching. There was nothing in his letter, there was nothing in the letters written for him about his teaching. And the teaching evaluations he sent were not only bad in terms of the qualities that they talk about. I have never gotten a comment that I did not provide a syllabus for a class. Never. In all my 29 years teaching here, plus multiple years at Yale and at Miami of Ohio, okay? So that he has students saying, it would be nice if there was a syllabus, that is a huge red flag. I'll also say, he sent us evaluations from 4 classes, one of which apparently has 8 students, one of which has apparently 2 students, another that has 5 students, and one that has 4 students. 2 months ago, this board refused tenure to a very qualified candidate because their classes were small. The University of Houston, where Dr. Mickish teaches, has a student body 50 times the size of the New College faculty. You mean to tell me that he has classes of 2 students regularly. These are the best teaching evaluations he could send us. I'll also note that 2 of the teaching evaluations he sent us were for classes that were taught exclusively online. Is that our model for education going forward? I hope not. Dr. Mickish, like Dr. Klingenberg, has an impressive record of publications. They both have degrees from well-recognized institutions, and both of them have been done a serious disservice by our administration because of our administration's desire to violate the process and to insult faculty. I vote no.
Trustee Mickelson, you're up next.
Yeah, I would like some clarification on a statement made at Monday's Academic and Student Affairs Committee meeting. There was something mentioned, it was either by the president or provost, about this being a more common pathway for granting tenure. Is that correct? Okay. What metrics were used to determine this tenure pathway for the 2 candidates that are presented today?
Trustee Mickelson, this is a debate. We're not here for debate, so we're here for discussion.
I would like to know what metrics are used to determine why these candidates were offered tenure in this fashion.
Follow the collective bargaining agreement.
One at a time, Ms. Mickelson. Any other discussion?
That's all.
Okay.
I was just
Thank
curious.
you. Any other discussion before I recognize Trustee Reed?
If you're following the collective bargaining agreement, how do you justify tenuring Dr. Klingenberg in this process that is for a new hire when he's been here since 2018 and when you made him, put him in his current position a year ago?
There's a pathway, Trustee Reed, if you don't think that we followed the collective bargaining agreement.
I don't.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Is there any other? Yes, Trustee Kessler.
Yes, I mean, I think Trustee Reed raises some important questions here, although I think I have seen now, I had not seen before, the CVs and the letters for these candidates who are obviously, I think, each quite distinguished intellectuals and distinguished scholars. And there's no doubt in my mind that they are tenurable. But the lateness with which the documents came and the irregularities in the procedure are concerning, I think. Now, Professor Klingenberg has been teaching at New College since 2018, and according to his CV, he's been a professor since 2018, so presumably he could have come up for tenure any time before this, but he hasn't. That wouldn't make me vote against him necessarily, but it does make me wonder why he didn't come up for tenure, though he was already a full professor, since 2018. Mickish, I think, sounds like a wonderful writer and scholar and intellectual, and in fact, I want to read some of his books. The description of them from Robert Pippin and other of his distinguished letter writers is very, very high and very laudable. But still, it does seem to me that although each of them intellectually seems worthy of tenure, I don't want to see the precedent set procedurally to be adopted and followed by us as rules going forward in other cases. I think we should have rules for lateral tenure for people who are coming in as senior scholars, distinguished scholars already, with long careers in teaching and research, and who want tenure as a condition, basically, of coming. That obviously wasn't the case for Professor Klingenberg, although perhaps it is the case for Professor Mikic. It's not clear from the record exactly how they are hired or under what provisions they were hired. I do think that an issue I've raised before is present in the Klingenberg file, which, as Trustee Reed has pointed out, all the letters of recommendation are by people who are not at arm's length from the person they're recommending. And normally in academic tenure cases, arm's length letters are a requirement. You don't go to the dissertation advisor of the person you're trying to hire. You don't go to people who have worked or written with them or done research projects with them. You go to ideally people who are not friends or colleagues of the person under evaluation. That is not the case for Professor Mikic. His are rather, there are certainly some arm's length letters there, but the Klingenberg letters are all by people who seem to know him very well. And that too seems to me to be not, I wouldn't want that to become a regular procedure or rule that we will allow such letters in the future, because we have in this case as in last year's several cases, many cases of last year's tenure candidates whom we did tenure, the letters also were, many of them not arm's length.
Trustee Kessler, as you recall in the Monday's meeting, the entire collective bargaining agreement book is open, and those discussions between the faculty representatives at the table and administration, I think it's a concerted effort on both parts to clarify in the CBA that process and the details of that process and not have any issues with it moving forward.
Well, that's good. That's encouraging.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I be recognized?
Yes, Trustee Patterson. Thank you.
I believe the motion failed, and so for discussion, we need a new motion.
No, we actually, the motion's on the floor, so we don't need a new motion.
Are we ready for a new motion?
We don't need a new motion.
There's a motion pending right now, and we're in discussion debate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, seeing no other oh, yes, Trustee Anderson?
I just have a question. If we vote no right now on the tenure question, given how short of a time we've had to review the files and how this didn't go through normal processes, can these candidates come up for tenure under the normal processes and time frame, or is this a once and done consideration with today's vote?
The answer to that is Dr. Klingenberg could come up the normal process. Dr. Micketts, we would lose. He wouldn't come.
Gotcha. So in his case, it's he will only join the faculty if he arrives with tenure. So it's a hiring with tenure consideration.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Just part of discussion.
I guess I'm just sort of surprised by that. He may not want to come with tenure, but as we have seen with a number of my colleagues who have left, people often, when they have tenure at one place and move to another, are able to have a leave of absence at one place so that they hold their tenure and that they can go through a tenure process at another institution, whether that takes 1 or 2 years. So if Dr. Mikish is not willing to do that, I'm wondering why.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion, can we do a roll call vote, please, Ms. Fitzpatrick, on the motion to approve tenure of Dr. Bernard Klingenberg and Dr. David Mickes, please?
Trustee Anderson?
No.
Trustee Bauerlein?
Yes.
Trustee Jaco?
Is this the vote on tenure for the two?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Karp?
Yes.
Trustee Kessler?
Yes.
Trustee Mickelson?
No.
Trustee Patterson?
Yes.
Trustee Reed?
No.
Trustee Rufo?
Yes.
Chair Jinks?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next motion.
Okay, next up, that was pulled off consent agenda, but I'll ask for a motion to, for approval of the framework for New College of Florida's core curriculum.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Trustee Carp. Is there a second?
A second.
Yes, thank you, Trustee Bauerlein. Okay, discussion on the motion. Since you took it off, Ms. Mickelson, I guess you have the floor.
Yeah, I'll go first.
Thank you.
I have a question about some of the changes that were proposed to the core curriculum. There was opportunity to attend meetings and provide feedback prior to the vote on Wednesday, May 8th. I was wondering, President Corcoran, why the changes to the curriculum requirements were made after receiving faculty approval.
Different, you want, this answer is the same as the committee meeting on Monday.
Could you
Not everyone was there.
explain for the trustees maybe some of the changes and how might that impact the curriculum?
There were, the only change that, and Vice Provost could address it if you would like to, but the only change was naming the enhanced writing course a Enduring Human Questions enhanced writing course. And it's an addition, it's not a change.
Trustee Reed, you're shaking your head no. I guess you have discussion point.
What is being brought forward is not what was approved by the faculty. We can argue about the significance of the substance, but they are substantive changes. A number of courses that have been writing enhanced courses will not be able to be Enduring Human Questions writing enhanced classes. That is a significant change.
Yeah.
So, and I do not think that there is any justification for unilateral shifts once the faculty have given their approval to a curriculum. I don't see why, by administrative fiat, it should be changed, except if the point is to insult the faculty.
I'm a huge fan, Dr. Reed, of your passion and your care for the institution, but there's zero desire on my part to insult the faculty. And to the extent that we can keep the conversation to the facts at hand, I think is best. As I said in the meeting, and Vice Provost can address it, it is not a change. What we are saying is, and even some of the trustees in the meeting, as you recall, is that what we want to do is have the best core curriculum in the country of an elite liberal arts school. And the concept is just having an enhanced writing course as part of that. No, we want it to be an enhanced writing course, maybe a part of all of our core curriculum classes. You know, whether it's humanities in the Odyssey, yeah, there should be an enhanced writing component to that. Whether it's one Enduring Human Question, two Enduring Question, or three, we want it to be arguably a part of that course. We just didn't want it to be a standalone course because we didn't think it was representative of the rigor and of the eliteness of the core curriculum that we're trying to create. And it was not a change. The enhanced writing course is still there. We just named it, and one of them we just put in the core curriculum was a Enduring Human Questions, which is an enhanced writing course. That's not a change.
I beg to differ. It's a substantive change.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Anybody else have any discussion points?
Yes, I still haven't received an answer to my question.
Well, this is discussion.
Yes.
I just answered it.
And it was just answered.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion by any other trustees? Anybody have any discussion points? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion on the floor for the approval of framework for New College of Florida's core curriculum. There's been a second. There's been discussion. Ms. Fitzpatrick, can you please do a roll call vote on this?
Trustee Anderson?
Yes.
Trustee Bauerlein?
Yes.
Trustee Jaco?
Yes.
Trustee Carp?
Yes.
Trustee Kessler?
Yes.
Trustee Michelson?
No.
Trustee Patterson?
Yes.
Trustee Reed?
No.
Trustee Rufo?
Yes.
Chair Jinks?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next up, that's been moved into regular business under Finance and Administration Committee is the approval of the 2024-2025 preliminary operating budget. Can I have a motion, please, for approval?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Trustee Carp. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Bauerlein. Ms. Mickelson, you pulled this off of the consent agenda, so we'll lead the discussion with you.
Hi, I was wondering if I could get clarification, maybe from Christy or someone on the excess scholarship funds and if they were returned to the foundation or if they were reallocated for something else.
Can you clarify which scholarship funds? We have 3 different buckets.
There was discussion in yesterday's meeting about the state providing scholarship funds, so there was fewer of the funds from the foundation were used, was what I understood that to be.
Right, so if I understand your question right, those funds stayed in the endowment and are growing interest.
Okay.
And the reason is because we more than increased the scholarships offered to students by over $1.5 million.
Thank you.
Trustee Reed?
So I have 2 questions, and one I want to just follow up on what you just said there, where you talked about the scholarship funds. So the foundation has provided $500,000 for scholarships last year, and you said that wasn't all used, and they've provided.
I didn't say that.
Oh, then I misunderstood what you had just said.
I did not say that.
Okay.
What I was talking about was previous to me being here and this board being here, I think the number in that foundation number, correct me if I was wrong, was 1.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's $500,000. The reason we did that is we took that $1 million and left it in the foundation because we got $80 million from the legislature. Of that $80 million, it required us to give out scholarships with E&G money that we received from the state. So we gave out, I want to say it was $5 million in scholarships. Right. So why would we, if we started using the additional $1 million out of the foundation instead of allowing it to grow interest, then we would almost be paying kids to come, students to come.
So I had understood on Monday that you did not use the full $500,000 for scholarships.
That was never stated.
Okay, then that was my misunderstanding there. So then my second question is about the athletics budget, and this is on page 5 of 8 of the document we have in front of us. And in a document we saw in the audit committee meeting last Friday, we had a document that indicated that all of the budget for the athletics program was covered by the foundation, all of it. And I'd like some clarification on what that really means.
Where's that that's never been stated either. I don't know what you're talking about, Trustee Reed.
It's a document that we were shown last Friday. And so I just want clarification then. This past year, the foundation provided $400,000 for athletics, and the rest of the money, almost $3.5 million, that comes from other E&G sources largely. Okay, and for next year, the foundation is giving us $1 million for athletics, but the budget is going up by $1.3 million to just over $3 million.
Most of that, if I may interject,
Mm-hmm.
Trustee Reed, most of that is Title IX allows us to use E&G for female sports. And so most of that is the addition of the new female sports. Which
For
is
women's sports, let's be clear, please.
Women's sports.
Thank you.
Most of that is for salaries and benefits for
So
the growth in women's sports.
do you have, actually, when we look over this more specific budget that we were sent for athletics, they indicate that between 45 and 55% of almost all the coaching salaries are being paid through admissions because they have responsibilities for recruiting. Is that standard for all schools, that approximately 50% of any coach's salary is paid not through normal means but through admissions?
Yeah, once you're starting a sports program like this, if you looked at some of the other NAIA schools, this isn't uncommon. And what you do is, so for year one, it was 50-50. I think for year two, we're going to 55-45, and then we would scale it down because the recruiting, the initial recruiting and recruitment for admissions is obviously when you're fielding a whole team is different than when 1/4 of your team leaves. So that would scale back down. And it's already scaling down. And that's for men's sports.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion for approval of the 2024-2025 preliminary operating budget. It has been seconded. I see no other hands raised. Ms. Fitzpatrick, can we please do a roll call vote on this as well?
Trustee Anderson,
Yes.
trustee Bauerlein,
Yes.
trustee Jaco,
Yes.
trustee Karp,
Yes.
trustee Kessler,
Yes.
trustee Michelson,
Yes.
trustee Patterson,
Yes.
trustee Reed,
Yes.
trustee Rufo,
Yes.
chair Jinks.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, I would ask for a motion for the approval of the food services purchase order.
Move to approve.
Thank you, trustee Karp. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, trustee Bauerlein. Ms. Mickelson, since you took this off the consent agenda, I'll open the discussion with you.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to state that NCSA was not involved in the committee-making process for the food service purchase committee. And I would like to ask that the NCSA has representation in future committees where other faculty and staff members are necessary to the committee formation, so that communications on topics relating to the university can include student government's institutional knowledge.
Point well taken, Trustee Mickelson. A student was on the board, but as you remember from the committee meeting, they had to attend. So to the extent that they weren't there at the last meeting, or certain meetings would have been the issue for them not being there for their final discussion.
Yeah, I agree. There should be student representation, and I'm glad that there was.
Yes.
But we would like to be included as student government in addition going forward.
That's a great idea. I'll reach out on those types of issues in the future.
Thank
or
you.
Dean will reach out to you and get your input on who you would like to have on that, on those types of committees. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on the approval of the food service purchase order?
Nope.
Okay, seeing none, there's been a motion and a second. Can we do a roll call vote on this as well, please?
Trustee Anderson,
Yes.
trustee Bauerlein,
Yes.
trustee Jaco,
Yes.
trustee Karp,
Yes.
trustee Kessler,
Yes.
trustee Michelson,
Yes.
trustee Patterson,
Yes.
trustee Reed,
Yes.
trustee Rufo,
Yes.
chair Jinks.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, next up, I ask for a motion to approve the student temporary housing purchase orders for the modular purchase agreement.
Move to approve.
Thank you, trustee Karp. Trustee Bauerlein, second. Okay, Ms. Mickelson, you pulled this purchase order out of the consent agenda, so you have the floor for discussion.
I have 2 questions relating to finance. I was wondering if carry forward funds could be used for the creation of dorms going forward when we start building.
That's not this issue.
Okay,
Has nothing to do with this issue.
I'll bring it up at another time then.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you the general answer though, Trustee Mickelson, is they've, just recently, I think the legislature and the governor passed a bill that gave universities greater discretion on what they can use their carry forwards funds. So technically, yes, with an approval process, but that has nothing to do with this issue.
I understand. My second question was, how long are we planning on using modular dorms for student housing?
As quickly, get rid of them as quickly as possible. I mean, I think, and I'll give you that in my updates.
I don't think people can hear you very well.
Can you hear me okay? Is this better?
Yeah.
I'll try to put it where I'm facing right there. It'll be in the presidential updates on the update on the master plan that we talked about earlier today. But let's say that master plan is released in the next 30 days, which should be a safe timetable, then that opens up the 90-day process. So just like ballparking numbers or dates is, and something, depending on what ultimately is approved by the master plan and depending on the size of the structures, I think a very quick build of a new student space would be probably 2 years, and depending on the size, 3 years. So that's why we purchased them, so that we would have the flexibility for 3 years. But as I said in the committee meeting and talking to these folks, that we think that we'll be able to sell them in 3 years, based on their market studies, and maybe even recoup our money. And in that time, we save somewhere in the ballpark of probably close to, by not having an extra 100 and some plus rooms in a hotel, we save about almost $3 million. So it's a very, very good win-win for both, and they're on campus for the students, which is nicer for you guys. So I think it's all the way around an excellent opportunity that came our way.
Thank you.
Trustee Reed?
I just had a question about, and I agree, it's good to have housing on campus, actually on campus. You answered my questions about whether they were hurricane safe, because that issue had been raised last year. And if this works out to be financially viable, that's a good thing, because last year we spent $8.5 million on hotels, which is a lot. It's not even Club Med. But for these current modulars, I don't really understand where they're being put. So I'm wondering if you can explain that. You had said it would be over by the softball field, and I went and drove over there the other day, and I'm just not sure where exactly there is room, unless they're going to be really abutting the road from the airport.
No, they're in fact, they're on the other side of the pond, on our side of the pond, the airport pond, not our property. But so they would be, they stack up, two across the back. So starting from the left field fence of the softball field, there's one, and then there's two. What would be removed is the sand volleyball court is the only thing that we have to remove.
Okay, so you're removing that volleyball court because you're putting in the other volleyball court.
That's correct.
Okay, then if you get rid of the volleyball court, there's enough room. But one hopes there's not issues with softball practice hitting students coming out of their dorms. But
I went to most games of the softball field. I would pop in and watch as much as I could because it was on campus and it was enjoyable. And we had a great season and we have a great team, but I didn't see a lot of home runs.
Okay. We can hope.
And this is going to bring the students back on campus pretty
Yes.
much immediately, which is wonderful.
Yes.
Correct. Good. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Fitzpatrick will just continue with the roll call vote on the approval of the purchase orders for the modular purchase agreement.
Trustee Anderson,
Yes.
trustee Bauerlein,
Yes.
trustee Jaco had to drop off. Trustee Karp,
Yes.
trustee Kessler,
Yes.
trustee Mickelson,
Yes.
trustee Patterson, trustee Patterson,
Yes.
trustee Reed,
Yes.
trustee Rufo,
Yes.
chair Jinks.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I now seek a motion for the approval of the New College of Florida Educational Plant Survey validation. Can I have a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Thank you, trustee Karp.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Bauerlein. This was pulled off the consent agenda by student trustee Mickelson, so we will open discussion with her.
I thought it was important to discuss this item because I wanted to clarify for the public that this is not permission to demolish the items listed, simply an approval that we received a document. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's an evaluation that's done every 5 years by the state on what's our inventory, what are things that could go away, what are things that could be erected, but there's nothing binding. In fact, when they came on the survey, Trustee Mickelson, they did voice to us, which we have taken very seriously, and our Vice President Issa Fritzko has done a fantastic job. But they did complain that it's too many times in the past, other institutions aren't taking the 5-year plan seriously enough. So we did a very good, serious, and they were very pleased with us.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question about the document. It mentioned a draft master plan. It was referenced several times in the report. Was this version of the draft master plan the last public one?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Trustee Reed, yes?
I just would like some more clarification on the Rice multipurpose building. What is the time frame for trying to build this, and where does it go?
Again, it's undetermined, as I said in the committee meeting, because that'll be part of the master plan process.
So,
But what we talked about was having a large 80,000, I think it's 76 to be specific, 76,000 type square foot building, 80,000 square foot building that would house classrooms, faculty offices, et cetera, on the west side of the campus.
so my concern is that I have seen proposals for both a multipurpose building to go where the Palmer buildings currently are, and for something sometimes referred to as the Freedom Center to be down in the uplands, which we know has already been more than decimated, 50% dated.
That's not correct, Dr. Reed.
So I'm concerned about where this building is going to go. If you could tell me that this was a building to be over near the Palmer buildings, I would feel more confident about the planning process going forward. If this is something that could be a classroom building or could be primarily the Freedom Center, then I have more concerns.
Again, there's not a definitive answer that can be given to you because we're in the master plan process. And so once the new draft of the master plan, which I hope to have out in 30 days, comes out, then there starts the 90-day evaluation and input from people to say we don't like this or we don't like this. So initially, I think in the first draft of the master plan, the Freedom Center was on that Uplands property. At the public hearing, the community was very concerned with that, and what some of the suggestions were, why don't you flip it and have the dorms there instead of on the 9 acres and move the Freedom Center over there. I think in the second draft they were flipped, and now we'll see in the third draft, but even that, then it has to go through the whole approval process. So it's just not a definitive answer, but that's the master planning process that you're talking about, and all of that, we'll have ample time to have all those discussions.
So I guess I just, I have an issue with being asked to approve something where we don't have the information.
Well, again, to Trustee Mickelson's point, Trustee Reed, this is not the master plan.
I know.
This whole discussion has nothing to do with the item before you. That has to do with us complying with the plant survey every 5 years with the state, and it's not binding.
I have a problem with approving something that says we're approving this very large building when we have no information about where it's going to be, what its impact is going to be on the campus. It just seems
You're not,
putting,
though.
it seems to be putting the cart before the horse.
I got it.
And we see this again and again where materials are brought to us late with issues, and we're supposed to approve them, and we're told, as with the core curriculum, that, well, we'll work that out later. And I don't think that that's an administrative model that inspires confidence from me.
And again, you're approving that we went through the 5-year evaluation, and there was an evaluation of what buildings would possibly be taken away, what buildings would possibly be put on the campus. There's nothing binding about that. It's just this is the likely 5-year direction of the school. Nothing's binding. You're not voting for a Rice building.
Thank you, President Corcoran. Any other discussion on this? Okay, seeing none, can we do a roll call vote, please, Ms. Fitzpatrick?
Trustee Anderson?
Yes.
Trustee Bauerlein?
Yes.
Trustee Karp?
Yes.
Trustee Kessler?
Yes.
Trustee Michelson?
Yes.
Trustee Patterson?
Yes.
Trustee Reed?
No.
Trustee Rufo?
Yes.
Trustee Chair Jinks?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next up, I need a motion, please, for approval of the 2025-2026 legislative budget request, LBR, for fixed capital outlay.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Trustee Carp.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Bauerlein. Again, this one was pulled off of the consent agenda by Trustee Mickelson, so we'll open it with you, Trustee Mickelson, for discussion.
Yes, I would like clarification. Is the multipurpose building supporting enrollment growth the same as the Rice building that was mentioned in the educational plant survey?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Fitzpatrick, can we please do a roll call vote on this motion?
Trustee Anderson?
Yes.
Trustee Bauerlein?
Yes.
Trustee Carp?
Yes.
Trustee Kessler?
Yes.
Trustee Michelson?
Yes.
Trustee Patterson?
Yes.
Trustee Reed?
No?
Chair Jinks?
Yes.
Trustee Rufo? I apologize.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Can I have a motion, please, for approval of the 2025-2026 legislative budget request?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Trustee Carp. Trustee Bauerlein, second. Okay, this was pulled off of the consent agenda by Trustee Reed, so we will open the discussion on this with Trustee Reed.
Trying to get to my right sections with this. So in this budget request, we're asking for $2 million for the Freedom Institute, the bulk of which is to go for 9 salaries, which means that the salaries are about $195,000 per salary, which seems to me a bit much. And then we're asking for another 2-point-some-odd million for the Marine Mammals Master's Program, which has been approved by the faculty, and another million or more, it's not broken down, for faculty for an education or educational leadership program, depending on which document you look at. Again, hiring 6 faculty and 1 administrator for an educational leadership program that has 0 support from the current faculty. We have 0 faculty currently here. I can't say who you're hiring, but we have 0 faculty currently here who are qualified or interested in teaching in this master's program. This has come up again and again, and the faculty have said, we are not interested in this. Moreover, issues have been raised about how a master's program that is designed to serve the needs of mid-career teaching professionals who want to have administrative certifications, how that is supporting our undergraduate program. This is a master's program very different in design and intent from either the marine mammal or the current data science program, both of which have pipelines for our current undergraduates to enter into those master's programs. Educational leadership, regardless of what is said in documentation here, if you look at programs across the country, educational leadership programs are designed for mid-career professionals. There is no connection and no benefit for us as an undergraduate institution to have this, other than making friends somewhere. So I really strenuously reject the proposal to fund the educational leadership program.
The Trustee Reed, again, there's probably a myriad I could think of reasons why someone would propose these that doesn't involve some sort of nexus to a friendship or something. Again, to the extent that we cannot impute negative comments to some of the trustees or to myself, I think is beneficial, but that's first of all, this legislative budget request, this is the stuff we discussed in the committee as well.
Mm-hmm.
But one is, you want to have, there's a process and a timeline, so you want to have money that's out there before the legislature so that you can have an opportunity to get these funds. And even the legislature recognizes, especially with institutes, if you look at in the last 10 years, they've created an Adam Smith Institute at FIU. They've created a Institute of Politics at FSU, and they just revamped that one. They've created a Hamilton Center at University of Florida. Almost every university has created some sort of Bob Graham Institute, Lou Fry Institute, these types of institutes at all the institutions. New College doesn't have one. So we created the Freedom Institute and are asking for the funds for the Freedom Institute, which was before you last year this time, and you was affirmatively voted on. Both of these items were affirmatively voted on last year. We picked up the ones that we didn't get the money for, which was all of them, and we just put them back before you this year in the exact same form with the money. The educational leadership, as you remember from last year and from the committee meeting, there's just a tremendous dearth of principals out there. And if you talk to the superintendents, which I've talked to numerous, tons of superintendents, not all, but we have 67 plus. And you talk to the charter schools, you talk to the private schools, there's a real need for additional principals out there. We think that this program, under the auspices that we always evaluate, is are we growing students, are we growing money, are we growing prestige, that this would be a growing money master's program. It would be a growing students. I think it's going to be by far and above our largest master's program. Probably will be close to more than double of the other two programs. So it's a great opportunity for us, and the legislature has talked about wanting this. The governor's talked about wanting this, and it's just a great opportunity. And what begins with those programs is the process where then it's got to go to the Board of Governors. They do an evaluation of whether it's competing with other state university programs or colleges. Then they have to give their approval. Then the budget gets honed in greater specificity. And ultimately it's approved in the year process. So this begins that process as we did last year.
So I have 2 points. One, I hear your caution about me not impugning anybody's intent here, but you just actually said that this was because the governor and the legislature wanted it. So perhaps that's what I meant when I said this was about doing something for friends?
It's not what I said. What I said was that the legislature and the governor want more principals prepared to go into the public school system because there's a dearth of it. When I said that they want it, I'm saying it's a public policy priority of the legislature and the governor. Not that they said to us, we want it for you at New College. That's never taken place.
So then I misunderstood the use of the pronoun it. I want to ask, has this been approved by the campus, this master's program going forward? Has it been approved by the legislature going forward?
This is beginning that process for the legislature, and it's not something yet to.
Has it been approved by the Board of Governors?
No, this begins that process.
So
it was approved last year by the Board of Governors.
So
we got through that whole process on the marine mammal program. That's why it's starting in '24.
So for the educational leadership program or education leadership program, has that received all approvals?
No, this begins that process, and then it
goes. So let me ask why you have already advertised 3 positions for this school.
I think we advertised to try to get a director in to help us build out the program.
There were advertisements posted on July 11th for the director of this and for 2 tenure track faculty members.
You mean July of last year?
No, this year.
You said July.
Oh, it says July. No, that's the closing date. June 11th, 2024. The ads were posted.
Yep, but this isn't debate, Trustee Reed. We're in discussion. Is there a discussion point here?
What we do.
I believe it is, I am concerned that we are being asked to approve a program when ads have already been circulated without any faculty input or approval, seeking to hire a director and 2 tenure track faculty members.
Just to be clear, the person that we're trying to hire right now is the director. Last year with the marine mammal program, as you know, we had somebody on campus who was very passionate about leading that, and so we had that person on campus and we didn't have to advertise it. To your point, we don't have that person on campus right now. So we're advertising for the director. We routinely advertise, if they posted the faculty, it's just to start collecting resumes and CVs so that we can move expeditiously once we anticipate the approval of the program. But there's no faculty being currently hired, it's just the director. But we solicit throughout the year. I think we have a constant solicitation for assistance.
These positions actually, the ads were posted on June 11th, and they say that the search closes on July 11th. So that indicates that you're moving ahead rather quickly. 1 month is actually a very short time to have a job opening for an academic position. So you're saying that you already have someone that you intend to hire for the director's position?
No, we just advertised for it. But what we're trying to do is advertise for the director's position. And to your point, Dr. Reed, I would anticipate they were doing it to try to get CVs in for the faculty. But Christy, if you could reach out to HR and make sure they take down the ads for the faculty, because it's just premature until we have a director that helps us with the hiring process.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this?
I'd say that before any job ads are posted for faculty positions, there should be faculty input,
Thank you.
period. That's part of our SACS accreditation, if nothing else.
Any other discussion? Thank you. I see none.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Kessler, yes.
Yes, no, I like very much the idea of the Freedom Institute, and my only friendly amendment, as it were, is that in some ways it's, I think, the scope or the subject matter of the Institute is drawn too narrowly. It is said to be issues pertaining to the free speech, free inquiry, and free debate, which is fine, but I think we should add free government because the free speech in some respects is an end in itself, but in other respects it's a means to the end of a free society and a free government. And many of the questions about the limits of free speech have to do with the effects of free speech on society and on government, in emergencies like the Civil War or moments of national crisis and so forth. There are many well-established lines of debate. And so I think we would attract a broader range of scholars and have a more interesting center and a more interesting sort of contribution to campus life and campus debate if we say explicitly free government as well as free speech, free inquiry, and free debate. We need to sort of connect it, I think, to the larger questions that it feeds into. You could also say free society and free government as far as that goes, but I think free government is more economical because it sort of includes free society.
Thank you, Trustee Kessler. I'll make those changes. And just so, even with those changes, ultimately it would go before the legislative body. And when it comes to the institutes, what they do is they often will write in the statute that approves the institute and add a tremendous amount of additional information. So if you look at the process with some of those institutes that I named, almost every year, one of them or multiple of them are going through new reiterations or addings or subtracting or renaming even the institutes. So that, I'll make that change because I think it's a great one, Trustee Kessler, but over the course of the next legislative session, I'm sure we're going to have lots of discussion, hopefully with the legislature if they are interested in moving forward with it, on what the scope of it is, but thank you for your input.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Procedurally, Trustee Kessler, this just enables the legislature to take up the issue
Right,
and move forward.
No, I'm not actually making a formal amendment. I'm just running my mouth.
Thank you, Trustee Kessler. I don't see any other discussion, so Ms. Fitzpatrick, can we just do a roll call vote, please, on the motion?
I don't think he heard you.
Trustee Anderson?
Yes.
Trustee Bauerlein?
Yes.
Trustee Karp?
Yes.
Trustee Kessler?
Yes.
Trustee Michelson?
Yes.
Trustee Patterson?
Yes.
Trustee Reed?
Nope.
Trustee Rufo?
Yes.
Chair Jinks?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And now is the time on our agenda where we're going to take a quick, let's call it a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 3:35. Thank you.
I'm lost in all the sheets of paper.
funding, pending approval.
I don't want to lose people. We have people still on the Zoom? Where
Yeah,
they
they're
go?
still there. They just, they're just hidden right in the second.
Okay.
I was gonna get those tenure things.
I'm going to sign them. I'll get them back to you.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
I'm not going to date them because you don't know when.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Hi, everybody. Come on back. Thank you.
Make sure she confirms.
Thank you, trustee.
Sorry it took so long.
It's freezing. You're not cold?
I'm on.
My hands were like freezing. I just
know.
stood outside for 10 minutes. Look at you got a
But I got
jacket.
a jacket.
You're just standing out there.
I know.
Hey, folks. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Break's over, and we're back on. Everybody's here. I got people on Zoom. All right, so we left off. There was one last item that was pulled off the consent agenda, and that was the approval of the New College Foundation 2024-2025 budget. That was pulled off of the consent agenda by Trustee Reed. So Trustee Reed, you have the floor on this last item that was pulled off of consent.
Madam Chair, do you want a motion?
Oh, yeah. Can I have a motion, please? Thank you. To approve the New College Foundation fiscal year 2024-2025 budget.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Trustee Carp, Trustee Bauerlein. Do I hear a second? Thank you. Okay. Now we turn it over to Trustee Reed for discussion.
So discussion, a question. I'm looking at page 1 of the financial plan approved on April 17th. And I have just a question about the starred items, coming back to athletic programs. Here it suggests that the $1 million allocated for athletics for 2025, for the upcoming year, is going to be offset by athletic donations. And I'm wondering what happens if they don't raise $1 million for athletics? Does that money come from the foundation's savings? Where does it come from? We're taking a lot more money from the foundation, not for scholarships. And we know that when the community board held its fundraising event, New College failed to raise any significant money to support the student travel grant program. So I'm wondering what happens if the athletic donations do not emerge? And what's the implication of that for the foundation's ability to support the academic program?
Well, first, the short answer to your question, Trustee Reed, is we have to raise the money. And if we, if all of a sudden in December it looks like, hey, we're not even going to come close, we're going to have to make adjustments. But that's the short answer. And this last year, I think we had $400,000, if you recall, in the budget, and we've raised. We had one donor alone who gave us $300,000. So, but yeah, that's and in addition to that, they have a coaches club now. They have the fundraiser they had at College Hall was very successful. But so I think there'll even be a balance moving forward because of the money that was raised, going towards the $1 million for next year. But we're very confident that we'll raise the money.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, then let's take a roll call vote on the approval of the New College Foundation fiscal year 2024-2025 budget.
Trustee Anderson?
Yes.
Trustee Bauerlein?
Yes.
Trustee Jaco? Trustee Carp?
Yes.
Trustee Kessler?
Say yes.
He did. He's, okay.
Yeah.
We read your lips. We're good.
Oh, yeah.
Trustee Michelson?
Yes.
Trustee Patterson?
Yes.
Trustee Reed?
Yes.
Trustee Rufo?
Yes.
Chair Jinks?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. We now move on to our regularly scheduled agenda, and at this time, we're going to ask for the President's report. President Corcoran, can you please provide any updates that you wish to give us at this time?
Yeah, I think I could probably be a little bit more succinct because some of the updates were related around the the consent agenda, but I'll try to update you. One is we've shared a bookstore with USF that's just north of our campus. We're working right now with moving that bookstore to having our own standalone bookstore with, assorted clothing and textbooks that would be located right on the heart of the campus over in ACE. So that's exciting, and that should be open for the fall. We put in for the legislative budget request in the last week for $1 million for Caples Mansion exterior restoration. I think I told you before, we're currently very alive in the federal budget for money to, long before all of us got here, the New College community had a great proposal that basically connected the mansions and had a walkway that went all the way through. It's a little bit tricky with FSU Ringling because they're a ticketed place, and so they probably won't give access. But what we're trying to do is continue that pathway north into the Uplands area, which would be, people could come down and walk along the pathway all the way up towards and connect it, hopefully ultimately connecting to the mansion to the north and the USF property. So that's I believe, $3 million, and it looks looks so far very favorable. We're hopeful. In your packet, or it was emailed to you guys, was a update of the current draft of the faculty hires and brief bios. It's a robust listing that's there for you guys to look at. And enrollment numbers were also provided to you guys either virtually or in your packets. The short version of that is we've already broken record enrollment from last year. I think we're going to end up somewhere in the 350 mark for total enrollment for the fall of '24. And the scores are generally up a point in the ACT and up, depending on the breakout of students, 30 to 50 points on the SAT. A slight drop in the GPA by 0.04 currently. We still enrollment will close at the end of the month. The housing update, you got a little bit of brief of it, but we feel really comfortable. We're in much better condition than we were last year. So we're going to have, basically, if you count the 10-year average of students who live off campus, I think we're going to be well situated for somewhere between 850 and 900 students, which is where we anticipate our gross enrollment will be. And it's, as you heard, more students on campus and savings from the hotels. The master plan process I kind of alluded to, hopefully within 30 days, be very disappointed. It's part of it is now, this last one is the actual master plan with the language, and so our architects are working through the next draft and then and the language, but that will all be out within 30 days. I certainly hope. We started to host different events. We had Supreme Court federal judges from around the country who came through, and as we do with weddings, we used College Hall for and hosted them for a dinner, which was a great opportunity. Some of our faculty with legal backgrounds know a lot of the participants, and so it was a great event at College Hall. We also had a symposium, an all-day symposium, which had Governor DeSantis at the end come and give a speech. It was a packed house in Sainer Auditorium. I think at the end it was standing room only, and it was held out in Sainer. We have a beautiful new lawn out there. Ultimately, we'll have white lights over it too, but it's a great place. Even been talking to faculty about doing some outdoor, Shakespeare in the Park type events with the great arts program and theater program that we have going right now. In addition to maybe a concert with some of our folks at the Robertson Park. Summer projects that are underway. The next time you guys are here, a lot will be done. The greenhouse is almost done. We're painting. The only dorm that we didn't get the stucco and paint last year, really almost one of the few buildings, was the Z dorm. That's being done right now. The library exterior is being stuccoed and painted, and that'll be done here shortly. The Pico project for Pritzker and the new balcony and the porch and all of the structural rehabilitation is underway right now down at Pritzker. The demolitions of Palmer E, the two houses on 58th Street, and ultimately the car museum will probably occur over this summer. We have new weights in the weight room for the students, so right now it's temporarily closed while we upgrade that considerably. We're doing maintenance that's kind of long overdue. Dorton Gold have needed air conditioner replacements, so that's underway. And working on, again, improving signage, improving landscaping throughout the entire campus. And the last thing I would say that wasn't discussed is this is the last board meeting. When I got here, there was a friendly face who I recognized because he used to serve as staff on the Board of Governors, is Chris Kinsley. He's our CFO. This will be his last meeting. He's leaving us effective July 1st. But I just want to say that there's so much going on with construction, with finances, infusion of the money, how that money's spent, and Chris Kinsley's just been a tremendous advisor and a tremendous asset to the school. It's been an honor to serve alongside him, and I just wanted to thank Chris for his service. And that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, President Corcoran. Next on our agenda is the...
Are we allowed to ask any questions of President Corcoran, or no?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Sure.
So I just wanted to be clear. What's the size that you're projecting for the incoming class? And I know that it's closing at the end of the month, but what are you projecting? And if you have the breakdown between FTIC and transfers?
It's in your packet. Right now we're at about 333. I can find it.
Here, like that's what.
And if you look at the top line, it breaks it down.
Sorry, there's so many pieces of paper.
So if you look at the fall 24, there's 226 FTIC, 108 transfer for a total of 334 to date. I think that doesn't count graduate students, which will probably be somewhere in the ballpark of 20. So right now you could say we're at 354, but there's melt that occurs. So we anticipate to being right around 350.
Great. And then when you're talking, well, I'll check out the GPAs. I wanted to find out if when you're saying there's an improvement in metrics, is that over last year or over 2 years ago?
Over last year.
Over last year. Okay, because.
And I can give you the 10-year run on that if you'd like,
Okay.
Dr.
And then my other question was, we know that we have 2 summer programs running. So there's supposed to be, I believe, 7 students coming to do an online, or not coming, but doing a distance online summer program. Is that 7, correct?
It's 8.
It's 8? Okay.
That's our Mighty Bending Early Scholars Program.
Okay. Are they students from Florida or from elsewhere?
I'd have to look at the list.
Okay. And then there's also a number of foreign students who are arriving in August. And I've heard very conflicting numbers. Can you tell me how many foreign students you expect to be arriving early? This is not foreign students in general, but a specific cohort that's being invited early to campus and who may have needs for additional support with English.
I'll look into that for you.
Okay. I mean, I've heard it's somewhere between 60 and 90 students.
I've not heard that at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'd like to, I'd recognize President Corcoran to discuss the new College of Florida Business Strategic Plan. And yeah, and actually what I'll do is I'll take a motion to approve the new College of Florida Business Strategic Plan, and then we'll open it with.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Trustee Bauerlein. Is there a second, Trustee Carp?
I'll second.
A second by Trustee Carp. Okay, President Corcoran, if you can please address the new College of Florida Business Strategic Plan.
Yeah, so just to put it in context, so this last legislative session, and it was just signed by the governor yesterday, again, we did very well, almost $30 million of additional revenues. In your packet, there's the actual proviso language, which is tied to a bulk of that, the significant portion of that $30 million. That proviso language asked us to go back to our original business plan that you guys approved last year, business/strategic plan that you approved last year, and basically put together heightened data. So what we did is we've worked, quite exhaustively in the last 90 days, slowly trying to put more data and numbers to that. If we don't do it, we don't get a significant portion of our $30 million. So obviously it's crucial for the university. And then if you guys approve it, it goes to the Board of Governors at the end of the month. And the reason that's significant is because now that the budget's been signed by the governor, the availability of those funds begins in the fiscal year July 1st. And so we're trying to, and we would not like to have a slowdown of everything. The next Board of Governors meeting is not till the middle of September. So that would put us in a difficult situation. So keeping in mind the original approved plan, we went in and put additional details and basically enrollment details. But we followed that same format as why did the liberal arts matter, and why are they so significant, and what's their contribution. We put some additional data together for that. Then we went into why New College, and we've broken it down from looking at the elite liberal arts colleges in the country, how well positioned New College is, given that the almost 40% of the students who attend, who are in the top echelon, maybe the top 6% is what we used, of students, that the bulk of them, 40%, are in the South, and the South has only 3 of those 43 schools, or in that top 43. So it just means there's a tremendous amount of students available to us, and we don't even have to leave this geographical area. And if we're, that elite liberal arts school, it's a tremendous investment. Additionally, we did a deeper comparison of universities and liberal arts colleges and your traditional universities. And it's a very compelling selling point, I think, as a parent, myself of 6 children, 3 in college. When you read it, I think now hopefully the state and the legislature will be more inclined to recognize the value of having a prestigious small liberal arts college in its arsenal of higher educational facilities. But whether it's the fact that, basically, these smaller liberal arts elite colleges have 0 TAs, where it's almost 70% at the universities. You're taught by a teaching assistant. You don't have the smaller, we have, at all of them, roughly 19 students. At those huge universities, there are over 100 students in a classroom. But we put all those metrics together that would say, well, why would I ever have a teaching assistant in a classroom of 100 when I could have this amazing education given at this elite liberal arts school? So we went into detail about those components. We went into detail about our increased discussion of our aspirational goals, and they're similar to the ones that we've had in the past if you look at it, but it's also, again, in fact, to some of the public comments, we're not changing anything. The narrative evaluations, the thesis, all of that's in this strategic plan as it was in the original strategic plan, because we think that's a significant selling point and should be front and center. I think if you look historically at a lot of our marketing materials, it's basically cost is the leader, which is a tremendous asset, the value of a public education in the state of Florida. But we want to lead off with that elite liberal arts and the methodology that we engage in and those types of things. So we went through and had those aspirational goals, and then the proviso language asked us to attach money to it. So on the last pages, you'll see where we started attaching money to it. That was also part and parcel discussions that we have had or have been approved with you guys in the past, or part of the legislative budget request. But I think we need to go through. I apologize to Trustee Reed, but we need to go through. Obviously, there's grammatical errors because and language changes that we'll make and tweak it before we submit it in a week to the Board of Governors if you all approve it, and then the Board of Governors will hopefully take it up at their June meeting, allowing us to start drawing down those funds immediately. And then moving forward, the proviso language asks us to give quarterly updates on those metrics. And a lot of them, as you're hearing, last year we set the all-time 63-year record for enrollment. This year we're breaking last year's record. So, there's going to be a lot of favorable responses, I think, not only from the Board of Governors, but from the legislature. But I'll also say, as an aside, having been in the legislature, and I'll allow President Galvano to address it also if he would like to, but it's somewhat rare, would be probably the best word, for this language to be associated with funding for the universities, if not a case of first impression. But obviously the legislature has been fantastic, and so has the governor. $80 million in 15 months is just astounding, and so we wanted to put together something that was worthy of their request.
Do you have any?
Just that I concur. I think it's highly unique.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded. Any discussion? Discussion. Trustee Reed?
Well,
With the understanding that typos and the like will be vetted and corrected, so.
This is actually a little more substantive than just a typo, and as I said to President Corcoran, I think I would be happy to go over the typos and just infelicities, because a lot of the writing here is not something that most of us would accept in our classes here at New College. But on page 25, the language says evaluation system / grading. And then it says, New College will follow a traditional evaluation system throughout a student's course of study. I would actually like to ask specifically that be corrected if the intent is that New College's narrative evaluation system is maintained and our contract system, which means that students are full-time, then I think that needs to be corrected, because otherwise it's far too ambiguous.
I'll do that, Trustee Reed.
Thank you. And again, I'm happy to.
And it was more
take-
specific in the original one. It just got shortened to a sentence, but we'll fix that. I honestly, to your point, Trustee Reed, and to Trustee Mickelson's predecessor, she actually gave me a book on the Oxford tutorial. But we believe that that's a significant component, to the point that in all of our business plans, the first one, edited ones, and this one, we highlight it quite strenuously because we think it's something significant.
So the one other comment I'd like to make is that in the report, part of it focuses on the dearth of really good liberal arts colleges in the South. And I'm sort of stunned that you don't mention Elon College, which is one of the highest ranked colleges in the country, and most definitely in the South. So it's not just Davidson, the University of Richmond, and Washington and Lee, but Elon should definitely be there as really one of our aspirational peers. When I was looking last night at the websites for Davidson, University of Richmond, and Washington and Lee, I noticed one thing about them. None of those schools have sports majors, not sports psychology, not sports management, not sports anything, none of the three. But all three of them do actually have something. They all have either a major or a minor in women's and gender studies. And I hope that this board will keep that in mind. If we are going to be comparing ourselves to the best colleges in the South, we should still have a gender studies program. They all do, and they don't have sports programs. They don't have sports majors. They have athletic teams.
And we're
And I looked at Williams, and I looked at other schools as well.
we're Trustee Mickelson asked at the education subcommittee, the academic affairs subcommittee, and then emailed following, but I'm doing the research on those top institutions and seeing the courses, but you are correct. I think it's an exception, not the rule, for sure. And then again, we're putting this together for the Board of Governors and for the legislature. We didn't want it, and we tried to do it in time for the fiscal year. So we used U.S. News and World Report and each is footnoted on the back, and that's where we got the 43 institutions. I would agree. I think you could look at Elon, you could look at a Rollins here in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
There's other schools, but we went with the top 43 that we thought would be satisfactory to the legislative request in proviso.
Any other discussion?
I move that we bring this item to the Strategic Planning Committee to discuss further. I was given less than 24 hours to review this document, and I don't think that I can fulfill my fiduciary responsibility and do right by the college by voting yes on this at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay?
Nay.
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 Everybody else is nay? Okay.
Motion fails.
Motion fails.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we will ask for.
I was wondering if I could speak for a moment about some of the things that I noticed in the document.
This is for discussion on the motion. I would suggest.
I can get with you, Trustee Mickelson, and go through it with you if you'd like.
She's recognized.
Okay, you could be recognized, but I mean, understand there'll be Scribner's corrections, so if you're going to go through that, you can do it, it's just going to take time.
Okay, I know that the agenda is, well, we wish to do this because of this being the business plan that we bring forward to the Board of Governors for approval. And I believe that it needs to include more details about how the sports complex and the P3 housing plans will work, as well as more detail about the non-public funds, for example, the foundation requirements that for this to be viable, because there are lots of great goals in this. But I want to see how this is broken down further, and I believe that the Board of Governors would also need more of this information. And I know that the vote will allow you to edit as needed, but I did want to bring that up to make sure.
And some of that we included in the preliminary one. The best course of action, Trustee Mickelson, is for us to, I think, approve this. We'll send it to the Board of Governors staff right away. We've matched it up against the proviso language in specificity. And if they want those details, we gave the numbers on the back, so they see what's needed in order to get through that 5-year. If you look at the last few pages, and I think that satisfies proviso, and I think it's going to satisfy the Board of Governors. But we'll send it up to them, and we'll let them see if it's an issue.
Yes, I know this is also phrasing, but I did want to bring it up as well. Some of the wording mentioned includes things like students will learn well, and phrasing similar to that. That's in some ways vague, and I was wondering if you could go more in depth as to what that would actually look like as far as the curriculum, the things that we can really bring as something important to New College.
Yeah, well, again, we'll send that up to them, and we'll see, the level of specificity that may or may not required. What we were trying to do with this document was comply with the actual statutory language found in the proviso.
I understand. I will work on you with that.
Yeah, love to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Seeing no other discussion, can we do a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Anderson?
Yes.
Trustee Bauerlein?
Yes.
Trustee Karp?
Yes.
Trustee Kessler?
Dropped off.
Oh, we lost him, okay. Trustee Michelson?
No.
Trustee Patterson?
Yes.
Trustee Reed?
Yes.
Trustee Rufo?
Yes.
Chair Jinks?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Last but not least, we took this off of the consent agenda, is the Audit and Compliance Committee. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to the chair of that committee, who has worked very diligently, Trustee Lance Karp. And I would ask Trustee Lance Karp to discuss the post-tenure review audit report.
Well, thank you. So the committee met on Friday morning discussing and being advised by our Chief Compliance Officer, Alex DeSumas. In committee, we reviewed this and approved some other committee actions, but according to the Board of Governors, we need to have this information brought to the full board and discussed. So Alex DeSumas is going to lead us through the specifics.
Let's see if I'm too loud with the mic or you can hear me. Trustees, President Corcoran, Council Galvano, Chief of Staff Fitzpatrick, thank you for allowing me an opportunity to present the post-tenure faculty review audit report. The first thing I'm going to do is go over a little background on the new regulation and then talk a little bit about some of the compliance areas we're working on with management. But I can assure you that we've made a lot of progress towards achieving compliance with the new Board of Governors regulation 10.003 post-tenure faculty review. And I'm sure that over the next few months we'll reach full compliance. With that, the Board of Governors felt it was necessary for us to have more of a standardized approach to post-tenure faculty review. As such, they created this new regulation on March 29, 2023. Interestingly, the audit period is fiscal year 22-23, so essentially the regulation came to life during the audit period scope. With that, many of the chief audit executives got together, as we do, and said, well, are we really in a position, if we do this first audit, to have as thorough an audit as if we had some more time? So rather than have the regulation required presentation to the Board of Governors of this audit report, we're going to consolidate all the universities' reports for the first year and have that presented in summary to the Board of Governors. So this report will not go to the Board of Governors in detail, but as part of a much larger report. With that, I'd like to recognize that Dr. Thiessen, David Rancourt, David Brickhouse all worked very hard to help me put this together and come up with remediation strategies. But we do still have some areas over the next few months that we still need to work on. High level, we're transitioning from a 7-year review period to a 5-year review period. And with that will come the addition of a lot more reviews than we normally do for post-tenured faculty. That one of the things we couldn't put our hands on were annual performance review for the faculty that are in administrative roles, the chairs, the provosts, some of those people in administrative roles. And we're going to try to put those together going forward and involve human resources, as human resources is involved with administrative reviews now for the non-tenured faculty. There are some instances where faculties can be eligible for an extension of the review and have it not done every 5 years if they're on paid leave, if they're out for some other reason, unpaid leave. And ultimately, the period under review isn't complete. So the reg allows the provost to request the president and notify the trustees if someone's been extended their normal review over 5 years. So we need to formalize that process to comply. Probably the largest challenge for us and for management will be the establishment of quantifiable metrics. Right now, most of the review is done in a qualitative manner and discusses the qualitative aspects of the faculty's work over the last 5 years or 7. But we need to add, according to the regulations, more tangible, quantifiable metrics. And those quantifiable metrics, can come in a lot of different ways. The colleges can all have their own, but they need to be established and communicated. It's probably an important place for me to mention that while we have established bargaining requirements with the faculty, that the regulation indicates that we shouldn't create anything in the new bargaining agreements that somehow undermine the intent of the regulation. The other thing that's very challenging for us is that each of the performance reviews will have a performance rating, and the Board of Governors recommends that a scale be used. The scale being exceeds expectations, meets expectations, does not meet expectations, and unsatisfactory. And for anybody in the does not meet expectations, there would be a performance improvement plan. With regards to records, well, the chairs made quite an effort to provide me the records needed for the audit. Regrettably, because we've had a lot of turnover or change in the provost office and change in personnel, we couldn't really put our hands on complete files for many of the reviews. So as such, I was only able to complete 4 reviews in entirety, and there still are a number of reviews that were due that were not performed, or we could not find the documentation of such. So we really need, the report talks about the need to really create a centralized, more structured way of retaining this documentation when tenure reviews are done, to make sure we can show what was in the review, how the review was formed and concluded on, how the ultimate performance rating was achieved. And then the last area, I'm required by the regulation to talk about how those 4 performance reviews went with regards to performance ratings. 1 exceeded expectations, 2 met expectations, and 1 did not meet expectations. So ultimately, I think management's got a plan in place. Over the next few months, we'll achieve all these requirements, but we've got some work to do.
Thank you for your hard work on this. Can I have a motion, please, to accept the post-tenure review and audit report that has been diligently prepared.
Motion.
Okay, trustee Bauerlein has made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Carp. Okay. Do we have any discussion? I see trustee Reed's hand is up.
So at the meeting last week, when it appeared that this item was not going to come before the board, I shared with Mr. Zumas a whole list of my issues with this report, some of which are typos and others of which are factual. We did not have a chance to go over that this week because I was under the impression that this report was not something that we were going to be voting on because it was not on the agenda that we received last Friday, and it appeared on the agenda that we received yesterday at 4:30. So
Madam
I will
Chair.
hopefully find time to meet.
Excuse
Madam
me.
Chair.
There's been a.
Trustee Reed is correct. This does not have to be voted on today, and we don't have to vote on it.
Okay. Then, if we don't have to vote on it, then Alex and I have set an agreement that we will go over the different changes. I do just want to make one factual statement, and that is about the missing reports. One of the complexities with Mr. Zumas having a responsibility for figuring out our compliance with a new regulation that wasn't in place in the previous years is that New College has always had a post-tenure review procedure that is very well built into the annual and reviews that we all receive. He sent me yesterday a list of 5 names of faculty who he says should have been reviewed for post-tenure review last year or in previous times, and that he could not find the documentation on. And I want to note that 2 of those people, they did not have a recent review because they were promoted. And a promotion review takes the place of a post-tenure review. So I won't name the faculty members because we're talking about personnel file issues, but I want to make it clear to everybody on this board that faculty have always taken evaluation of our peers very seriously, and that the evaluations have all been done and on a fairly consistent basis. This year, things did not happen because we did not have a process in place for the new post-tenure review system imposed by the state. And the provost's office was working on it, and it's taking some time to get ready. But the faculty have always fulfilled their obligations. Thank you.
I would like to note that after the audit committee meeting, Amy has indicated that we did not have a chance to talk. I provided over a dozen emails, several spreadsheets, and multiple other documents, which she just referenced as things she received. So rather than perhaps leave the committee with the impression that we did not communicate and I did not provide you all the support possible, I think I've made every effort to do that for you and will continue to do so.
And I'll confirm that. As I said, we didn't have a chance to meet this week because I was too busy. So certainly not you not providing information, but we do need to go over the details and get some things right.
Thank you.
Trustee Bauerlein?
Just a quick question. You mentioned that faculty come up with does not meet expectations or put on a performance improvement plan. Is that the same case with faculty who come up unsatisfactory?
So according to the Board of Governors regulation, the performance improvement plan is for does not meet expectations. An unsatisfactory rating, according to the Board of Governors, would result in termination.
Okay, is there any other discussion? If there's none, then we'll.
I'd just like to thank
Trustee
Alex as our Chief Compliance Officer for all the work that you do, and on behalf of the school, and in just putting Alex, sort of letting him know how he compares, or letting everybody know how he compares to the other Chief Compliance Officers in the state. When state auditors come down to review actually what our compliance team does, they always give him and his team the highest remarks possible. So thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you,
That's
sir.
great. Okay, so we're gonna show the motion as withdrawn. We don't need the motion. And that concludes our business here today. And so we will be adjourned. I did want to welcome our new student trustee, Olivia Mickelson, who you've met here today. So she will be with us for at least the next board year. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.